if our like metric of our standard is we are opposite of anything woke,
Yeah.
then there's going to be things that just aren't logical that we're going to be going up against.
I think it's interesting to see how the world has responded with such chaos when there are people dying and being raped like by their own government in the Middle East, and we couldn't care less.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's
I've
definitely a
given this a lot of
take.
thought.
That's definitely a take.
Can't relate to cancel culture, hookup culture, or victim culture?
Well, neither could we. We created this platform for those other girls. Girls like us who want to give a different perspective from a Christian and conservative worldview.
We talk about life, work, relationships, pop culture, and everything in between. So let's be those other girls that just don't talk about culture,
but change culture.
Hello, hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much.
And a happy 1 year of Dobbs when you're listening to this.
Oh, yes. It will be 1 year when this comes out. Happy. Woo, celebrate. Roe has fallen. The L in Roe. Wait, no, that's not right. The L in Roe v. Wade. No. 1 second. There's a joke. Everybody hold on. Freeman just start talking and saying stuff. There's a joke I really want to get off.
Okay, well, I can start because I'm taking a kickboxing class tomorrow and I need everyone to stop what they're doing and tell me if they have ever taken a kickboxing class before. Because I'm super excited for it and I've been very excited to tell the listeners. And I'm going to let you know how it goes next week. I promise. I'll make a note. I'm so weak. I feel like the thing isn't even gonna move when I punch it.
Wait,
it's not even gonna like.
With who? Who are you kick? Like what
Just
brand?
something called like 9 round. It's some.
Are you being
class.
serious?
Yeah. What?
Okay, I guess you didn't know me then. Not to like brag, but I was actually really into 9 round. Like
Really?
the one, yeah. If like ideally one day when I can have a regular schedule, I'm going to go back to boxing. I absolutely love boxing. My brother worked at a 9 round for a little
Oh my
bit. Like
gosh.
we had, like I still have mitts and stuff like that. Like absolutely love boxing. I just haven't
Oh
really
my
been able to
gosh.
do it because of my work schedule. But one day,
Yeah.
hopefully soon, I'll have a different life circumstance, so then
Yeah.
I can go back to boxing. I absolutely love boxing. 9 round is great. 10 out of 10. Like I was going
Good.
faithfully, because I was actually good friends with the owner, and he
Okay.
helped me get a deal. I could go every day, for that set price, because for a certain price, I think you can only come technically 3 times a day. But we became really good friends. He was a nice conservative man.
3 times a week, you mean?
3 times a week. Yeah, sorry, 3 times a
Yeah.
week. He was a nice conservative man when everything was shut down. I actually was at the gym when a cop was coming. So my gym, the kickboxing gym, and then I think it's one of those gyms that's nothing but classes, is right beside it, and a police officer was coming to check. Like everybody make sure, like, can you be exercising in like the height of the pandemic and everything, but like yeah, it was like super like
Whoa.
intense. Yeah, it was like
That's
super
intense.
it was intense. So he was coming by checking, making sure we could actually be here, and but he was like super chill, and I mean technically I could, because like I need to exercise for my health, like,
Mm,
and so anyway, but love 9 round, 10 out of 10. It's
Good.
a
I'm
really great
excited.
workout. Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting, Freeman.
Yeah. I'm
Yay.
excited. Thanks for being excited. Okay, did you find the joke?
Yes. So the joke is the L in Roe v. Wade stands for life. And now I'm getting what it means. It's like, oh, you took Roe v. Wade, you took an L, and that L stands for
Okay.
life. It is not as funny as I
Understood.
thought it was. Like if I hadn't butchered it so badly, it'd be a lot funnier. So anyway.
The W in Roe v. Wade is Dobbs.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, everybody, I hope you found this little thing funny.
Amusing?
Yeah, amusing. Excited about boxing. Wow, now that you brought that up, I really miss boxing. I'm surprised you,
You're in
like,
the
on my
field?
keychain I have like a boxing
I've
glove.
seen those. I've seen
Yeah.
those. I never realized. I guess I didn't make the connection because I only
Yeah.
booked my class like 20 minutes ago.
Oh, really? Oh, so
So,
you're just now
yeah.
getting into it. Nice.
Mhm.
Okay. I was about to ask which one. Don't tell me which one you're going to.
No
because
idea.
we don't need people to like show up. Not that we're getting
true.
tons of listeners, but
Yes.
I mean, we are getting tons of listeners, but not stalkery ones, ideally.
Yeah, not like stalker level tons.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so
No.
how are you? How are things?
Things are good. I went to the beach last weekend
Fun.
to celebrate a friend's birthday. Super fun. It was good to get some like refreshing, clean air. And it was just good to like hang out. Sorry. It was good to hang out with just like friends, I guess.
That is good. Mm-hmm.
So the first funny story. So we got in the car, very packed tight, but you know what? We're doing the thing. And for me, and you know this for me because we've been on a road trip together, part of the fun is the singing in the car and just the conversations. That's like the trip starts the moment you take the picture outside of the car and then you step into the car. That's when the trip starts. So, we're like having fun and everything. So we don't go to the hotel to drop our stuff off. We go straight to the beach. Go to the beach.
Wow.
We lay out, have fun, get some water, get our toesies wet and everything. Go to the car. The car doesn't start. And then, because the battery has died, but a really nice couple saw and jump-started the car. And it was just kind of like a funny, like, okay, here we go. And one of our friends she's so, I don't know, she's not a tom, she knows all the things that like, so, okay, if you grew up Southern and girly girl, you know what I'm about to say, this is just a stereotype, and it's just like how it is. Like, I grew up, I had no intention of learning anything about cars or finances, because those are man's things. Me touch a garbage tools. Me touch a garbage can? Absolutely not. Oh, getting my own gas? Yeah, I what would be the point of me learning how to get gas? Because like, so this is just how you grow up as in the Southern, especially Christian area.
Yeah.
Okay. So my friend is like not like that at all. So she knew, okay, we need this, we need that, da, da, da. But the thing was, we were all wet because we had just come out of the water, and she was trying to help, and I was like, I believe you. I believe that you are good at this. I really need you to step away and let them do this because you're wet and these are electric charge. Let's just step away. But she's so on top of it. We also, so eventually she had to actually get a new battery on our way home. We stopped at a place to get a new battery. My friend knew exactly, okay, well, we need this bolt, da, da, da. And I was like, wow, this is so good.
Oh my God.
She bought a house. She is so like, she's what I aspire to be.
Very independent.
Very independent. And like, I am independent to a degree because like, obviously I pay bills. Like, I guess that's probably the only real independent thing about me. I pay bills. But like, I mean, even, thank you. Even, like, a minute ago, something wasn't working. I was like, well, let me go ask my dad. And like,
yeah, I know. You were like, my light isn't turning on.
Oh,
you're
yeah,
like,
that's what it was.
Light bulb. And you're like, my bad, I'll do it.
Yeah, so like, she's not like that at all. She would know where to go to get the light bulb. She would know how to find the right light bulb. You know, I just don't really know all these things. When I did live in an apartment on my own, I only lived there for almost, so I'll say a year and some change, or a little bit over a year and a half. So like, I didn't really have too many major problems. I did have a problem with my smoke detector that drove me insane. I had to figure that out. And you know, I figured some things out for my car. Like, I've had a couple car things with like various cars I've borrowed, and then one tiny thing with the car that I own that I bought myself. That's pretty independent. And you know, I've had to learn those things, but like, I don't know all of the things. So ideally, once I, you know, get out of these circumstances and I'm on my own, I'll be able to learn, like, glean, and like be able to be a little bit more independent like she is. But that was just really cool to see her like in her element. She knew
that is cool. Good
yeah.
for her.
Yeah, I know. I know. So that's been my week, or that was my weekend, and it was fun. Like I said, I'm trying to think of anything else really exciting. Went to this like bar restaurant place. I am too old. The whole time I was like, oh my gosh, these are children. Why?
Really?
Who let this 18-year-old come and stand there? Like, this is so inappropriate. Like, why are they here? How do these 18-year-olds know this song? There was actually a part, like, where we were seated, we could see out kind of to, like, where a bunch of boats were docked, and they were, like, riddled with children. Like, not children. I'm being dramatic. They were probably, like, 21, 22.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just kind of, like, hanging out around there, and they were drinking and playing music and dancing, and all I could think about was, like, oh my goodness, that's how that Mallory girl died. Oh my goodness, I hope these kids are going to drive their boats.
Yeah.
Do I tell the police? No, this is none of my business. Like, I was just going back. I was like, I can't be here. Because they're just in there. And you know what? They were probably being so innocent and cute. And, like, guys were flirting with girls. It was probably a cute moment. But, like, I'm just too old to be watching that. Because I'm like, oh my gosh. I hope none of these kids get on the boat. They better not get on the boat. They're just 10 years old. Why are they out here? That's, you know, all these things going through my mind.
You're 10. Girl, I'm 21. So.
I know.
Wait,
You're...
am I? Yeah.
You're 21.
I'll be 22 this year. Yeah.
You're a mere babe. But we have good millennial and Gen Z representation.
Good energy.
Yeah, because you're like Gen Z, right?
I consider myself Gen Z, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm Gen Z.
Well, what year were you born in?
2001.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, you're definitely Gen Z. Whew, 2001. Wow. That was so long
Okay,
ago.
so what are our stories?
Just joking. I was in the first grade in 2001. So, funny story, really quick, and then we'll get to the stories. So if you graduated in class 2013, and I guess 2012, this worked for you too. So for 2013, the first half of the year was the year of, was the grade you're in. So in 2001, I was in the first grade. In 2002, I was in the second grade. 2003, so on and so forth. So that's how I know what was going on.
That's good.
I know.
My mom is exactly 40 years older than me, so I can, whenever I wonder like how old she is, I just figure out my age and then add 40.
She's exactly 40. You said,
Years
I thought you
older
said
than me.
14, and I was like, oh, a free-for-all Fridays? That's
Oh
interesting.
my god. Yeah, that would be a huge topic. No. Sorry,
Wait, so
Mom, if you're listening.
were you born on the same day as her?
No, I'm just saying,
Oh,
like, she's exactly
same.
like 40, like, she's 40, which is like such a good number, you know? So
Yeah.
whenever I'm trying to figure
So
out my mom's age, I can just
got
be
it.
like, okay, plus 40.
Got it. She looks good. I didn't know
She looks
was
amazing.
Yeah,
Carrie's out here slaying.
I legitimately, I was like, so to be honest, when you said 14, I was like, okay, that makes sense. She looks young. Like, it would make sense that I legitimately, like, Freeman's mom, if you're listening, I legit thought, okay, maybe she's in her 30s or 40s. Like, I really wasn't thinking that you were, you know, in your 60s.
She's in her 60s.
That's crazy. I legitimately,
No.
like, the pictures I've seen, had no idea.
I know.
None.
She's doing
Wow.
great. She can,
Yeah.
she can still do a handstand.
Oh my goodness. What's her
Yeah.
Free for All Fridays? You should have your mom on. She can tell us, like, her secrets.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
we have a
we-
million things to discuss.
So many things. You know, last week was a little blah. This week, so much stuff has happened. But first, I want to remind you guys, we have cute merch. We also have an app if you want to continue the discussion, if you want to get notifications. Not too annoying, but like when we have new blog posts out, we're really trying to do a blog post a week. We have someone new coming on that we'll be introducing soon. And so if you just want to stay connected, this is the best way to do it, is through the app. Also, we have a Patreon. We have gained some more Patreons. So shout out to all those on the Patreon. Thank you so much. Your $5 a month or $20 a month or $60 a month truly does make a difference. The only way we can get this podcast going is through help and support. You know, if you guys have noticed the quality of the podcast has gone up, it's because A, we have better equipment, and B, we have Freeman. And how did Freeman figure out this, like, find this podcast? Aside from, you know, following me on Instagram, she probably had to look into it and see, and like, how do we do marketing, stuff like that? It is through your donations, through you partnering with us, because when you are joining Patreon, you're saying that you want to help change culture. This podcast, one of our main goals is just to give a different perspective on a variety of topics, which we'll be doing today, and to help change culture. That's how we're going to fix some of these issues that we have. So you should absolutely join the Patreon. You will not regret it. We have free for all Fridays on there as well, which Freeman just tackles some topics. Like if you're listening to the podcast and you hear us go, oh, we could talk for hours about this, Freeman probably will talk for about 20 more minutes on the topic. So we'll have that. We're going to have some other things. We're also going to be having more shows, like part of the Other Girls Media Network. So when you donate, that really, really helps. Those are all the announcements. Oh, if you're listening to this on your way to the state, South Carolina State House, Freeman and I both will be speaking, and there will be a booth for Those Are the Girls. So come by and say hey to us. Super excited to meet you guys. And we're really excited to celebrate the fall of Roe and celebrate Dobbs and everything. And we're going to touch on that. And then we'll probably do a separate episode on that just to really, well, because we can't really get it all together in one. And like we've mentioned before, I really want episodes that are so focused on that to be good episodes to just share with your friends. So if they have questions or if they don't understand and you're like, I don't really know how to explain it all, you can refer back to our episode to share with them and, and hopefully answer some questions. Anyway, let's get started. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Our first story isn't really a story. It is just us chit-chatting, really about something that has been the talk of the town. By the time you hear this, we will probably know whether it's about the small submarine. I know it's not called a submarine. I do not want to try to pronounce the word, so I'm going to call it a small submarine. Yeah. By the time you guys hear this, we would have now figured out whether it was a successful rescue mission or a recovery. But everybody's talking about it. It is the talk of the town. You can't not talk about it. Dumois, do you know what Dumois is? So Dumois is like a celebrity blog type thing. Like you send her. So let's say we are in Uptown and we're at another restaurant. We're just giggling, laughing, having such a great time. And we see Justin Bieber and Haley there. And then we see Justin Bieber or Haley pass Justin Bieber a successful pregnancy test. And then Justin Bieber starts jumping and screaming and everybody's clapping and we're joining and we're cheering. What we would do, well, I wouldn't do this because this is an invasion of privacy, but what other people do is they send a picture or they'll send like a little thing, Dumois, I was at blah, 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 and I saw Haley tell Justin Bieber that she's pregnant, and then Dumois will try to do her best to verify whether this could be true or not, and then if she verifies that it's true, she'll post about it. And it's about celebrities. So anyway, someone apparently sent Dumois something anonymously saying that they know for a fact. I'll read it to you guys because it's a little like, okay.
This is interesting.
So Dumois posted, this was yesterday. She said, so she posted, so you know how they on Instagram they'll have like the questions, and the question is, what's everybody been up to? And this person said the submarine that went to explore Titanic but got lost on the way down, WTF. And then she commented, not celebrity news, but it's kind of crazy. And then she said she screenshotted a message someone sent her, and this is what the message said. Hey, anonymous please, but I have it on good authority that the submarine has been found and all the crew are alive. A trustworthy source who knows passengers abroad says the rescue efforts are underway. And then
wow, I was not expecting that. Okay, that's really, really good news. I've been praying very hard.
Well. It's Dumois. So if you truly knew, like, are you telling Dumois or are you telling like ABC? You know, like, I don't know. I hope this is the truth. I mean, Dumois knew about the Taylor Swift breakup. Like, there's been a lot of things that that person knew, that she knew before everyone else. I think she knew some stuff about Britney before everyone else. Like, so it's possible. I mean, it's quite possible, but that's what Dumois. Anyway, so it's been such like a thing in the culture that if Dumois was everybody's talking about it. Everybody. What were your initial thoughts when you heard about it?
Well, I kind of was like, they're gonna be found, right? I mean,
yeah, I thought that too.
But okay, first of all, I want to talk about how, like, the conditions they're probably in right now. I mean, they're probably freezing. Like,
Mm,
they're probably trying, like, that guy's probably trying to comfort his son.
that's the
Like,
saddest thing to me.
I know. It probably smells horrible because there's definitely like all kinds of bodily, you
Oh God,
know,
yeah.
and they're in the size of a van. Like what if I knew I had 10 out if I just
Yeah.
can't even imagine the terror you'd be feeling. And you'd have to regulate your breathing to save oxygen. So
Yeah.
like I would be losing it. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I mean, you're gonna suffocate. You know, your suffocation is it's just waiting. I mean,
Well, here's the other thing too. Unfortunately, best case scenario, if they're not found, is that it blew up immediately and they didn't feel anything. So that's
oh.
also a theory. It like blew up already immediately and they didn't feel anything. And that's to me that is a better outcome than
Mm-hmm.
literally
For
like
sure.
knowing your impending death. Um
Yeah.
so I also have to say this. I have to take this off my chest because I said this in a group chat and everybody kind of teased me, but it's the truth. Okay. If I did not have to pay because that's a ridiculous amount of money,
Yeah.
I would have done it. I do not think like I understand people like, oh, this is ridiculous, this is dumb and stupid. Also, they've done it not a bajillion, they've done it a couple other times, and it was successful. And what an interesting story, like what
Mm-hmm.
say, oh yeah, I went like the Titanic part of it is interesting, but not that interesting to me.
Totally.
But to go that far down and like see what's out there, like kind of like if it was
Yeah.
just even if it was just like kind of exploring around
Mm-hmm.
um and just seeing like, oh, what's down here? Oh, imagine the different type of fish that could be down there that we don't really know anything
True.
about. Imagine like seeing some of the creatures. Like I know everybody's like joking about the Kraken and everything, but like what if there is a huge octopus that we've just never seen, and like just to see those different things, like it's just a whole nother world that we would have just never. So I would have done it. I think I would
Okay.
have. And like my friend, so when we were like talking about it in the group chat, someone was like, talking about how like, oh, some of the memes are kind of disrespectful, and they are. Like it's we go back and forth. I think as humans is like having empathy, and then also like part of coping with things is like humor.
Yes.
So it's
Humor.
always,
Mm-hmm.
there's some lines. So my friend was like, well, imagine if it was one of your siblings or one of your
Mm-hmm.
parents. And I legitimately know neither one of my parents wouldn't think twice about it. And I know my brother definitely wouldn't. And then I started thinking, I was like, realistically, the only person in my life that I know would do it would be me. And I think that like everybody should be concerned more about like me instead of me being, because I can't even fathom anyone in my life wanting to do that. Maybe one
Mm-hmm.
person. Would you want to do it?
Okay. I don't think I would.
Okay.
But my something that I want to get off my chest,
Okay. Okay.
and this is again a hot take, but honestly, I'm surprised at how much media attention it's gotten.
Really?
And I think the reason it's gotten so much media attention is because of the very wealthy people that this is affecting. I think if these people, and I don't mean to sound like a total like socialist, but if these people were everyday folks, would this be getting live coverage on CNN?
Let me tell you why. Okay, so I have two thoughts. I
Mm-hmm.
think it still would, because at the end of the day, this is
Okay.
something weird and unique, like
Mm-hmm.
very strange. If it was somewhat so when people, and I hate to say this, but going up to Mount Everest, you people die. So you
Mm-hmm.
pass dead bodies, and these are dead bodies that'll be there for years because it's not like anybody can rescue them. So if it was something like that, people were talking about that, then I'd say, yeah, that's a good point. Like, it's probably because this
Mm-hmm.
person's really rich. But I do think this is like super strange and unique. The second thing is
Mm-hmm.
like realistically, like, no, like this is a rich person's activity. Like, I'm saying I would go
Yeah.
down because I would. Like, I really would. Maybe not like if someone were to ask me in this version of this body today, I probably wouldn't because I'd be concerned about like the whole weight thing and like, but like there's a different version of Mallory that is smaller that would go.
Okay.
But the reality is like there is no. I mean, there's maybe one other version of Mallory that even has that much money to spend to do it. Because, like, it's not even really fathomable for a regular person. Because, realistically, there's two things or a couple of reasons why I feel like people would do something like this. Is because, A, like, you have nothing to lose. And, like, you know, sometimes I feel like that. Like, I'm not married, I don't have kids. Like, what the heck? Why not? Just go out there and live. And then, B, it's just something extra and different, and you have the time and like a lot of this stuff is a lot of these reasons you're, you know, innovative, you're kind of like an explorer. These are all like rich activities. You have to be kind of rich. Like climbing Mount Everest, $70,000 to do a tour. You got to be rich, you know, to do some of, not necessarily skydiving. Everyday people do skydiving, but like do some of these like cliff jumps, to do this. I mean, heck, skiing. You got to be, you don't have to be like filthy rich, but like, you know, the average middle class person is not skiing. That's just a fact. So like some of these like kind of riskier things, you got to be like, so it's like, we can't really compare it to everyday people because like just everyday person is not going to do it like that. It's just not even fathomable
for sure. But I'm just saying, like, if these people were average Joes, I don't suspect that we would be talking about it quite this much. And another thing I think is interesting is the irony, because there have been people calling out the submersible, saying that it's not up to regulation and it's highly dangerous. So I think it's ironic that they fired those people and now look what's happening to the CEO.
Yeah. I mean, there was that whistleblower. There was the guy who was invited to come, and then he looked at it and said absolutely heck no, and now his friend is missing. I mean, you're right. The man, it's realistically, nobody should have done it. I can say that, I can admit that. Though I would like to have had the opportunity, it's not wise. And yeah.
Well, and I don't want to victim blame. Like,
no.
They're in a horrible situation. I don't want to say like we were stupid for doing this, but I think it's interesting to see how the world has responded with such chaos when there are people dying and being raped like by their own government in the Middle East, and we couldn't care less.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's definitely a take. A lot of thought. That's definitely a take. And I also just want to point out, like, the guy, I think he's a producer for The Simpsons, went down and did it. And came back and was fine. So, like, people have done, that's the other thing, too. It's not like this is the first time ever. People have done it. It's just been successful. And technically, there were two more, I think people already put down payments for two more things next year, which I don't
get that back.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, especially, like, when the CEO is possibly passed away. Well, that's technically our first story, but not really. So our next story is actually a video that I'm going to link. You guys are going to have to head over to the website, so you can hear the entire video. I'm only going to play about, the part I wanted you guys to hear is about 3 minutes. And the video is like 9. I think I'll play the whole part, I guess. But to hear the full video, you're going to have to, I'll link it, and it'll be on the show notes and everything. So yeah. So this is what we're going to be discussing. It is from the show Breaking Point, which is really good. 10 out of 10 show. I genuinely enjoy it. My brother got me onto it, and it's a really, they do good balance. They have a decent balance. One of the co-hosts is very well, I wouldn't say he's very conservative. Like, I'm further conservative than him. But one of the co-hosts is conservative. The other is fairly liberal. And they kind of talk about both sides when it comes to things. So
that's great.
Yeah, great show. All right, so here we go. I'm going to play it now.
Through the 90s. As evidenced by our most recent midterm elections, the vast majority of Americans are pro-choice. The majority of Americans, including Republicans, have no issue with gay marriage. The public has basically remained the same, if not slightly more liberal, in favor of gun control. On the new fights, though, it's a very different question, and it highlights what I have long identified as the new culture war, a new strain of conservatism I believe is untapped, largely unrepresented in the Republican elected base. I laid it out a few years back on the Joe Rogan podcast, borrowing Matthew Walter's term, Barstool conservatism. It's a very simple concept. A new strain of people who call themselves or feel right-wing, are fairly liberal on gay marriage and abortion, but are resolutely opposed to transgenderism, to racial identity politics, and are pretty libertarian whenever it does come to guns. The new strain of conservative is largely secular and is probably best described as socially libertarian combined with a deep hostility to liberal political correctness. The name Barstool conservative is derived from Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool, but it represents just a male audience largely that gravitates towards his content and those like him in our political zeitgeist. I'm laying this all out because it's important to the chart I'm about to show you. How do you interpret it? New data released by Gallup shocked a lot of liberals. It shows in 2023, Americans find themselves more socially conservative than ever before. 38% of Americans for the first time in years say they are, quote, very conservative or conservative on social issues. 5% more than in 2022, 8% more than 2021. Meanwhile, a corresponding drop in socially liberal has occurred. Those who identify as very liberal or even liberal on social issues has dropped in 2021 from 34% to 29%. The important thing to understand here is that it's not Republicans getting more socially conservative. It is actually an overall swing amongst every single political and demographic subgroup, from men to women to every racial identity. Those that have gotten the most conservative, however, are very interesting. It's older millennials and Gen X, those who are aged between 30 and 64, who identify as socially conservative now by double-digit margins more than they previously did. The question is important. What the hell does that mean? Because in the very same poll, Americans by a 71% margin, as I said, they support gay marriage. A large majority of Americans say they identify as pro-choice. So how can it be possible that Americans find themselves more socially conservative ever, while also being more liberal than ever on abortion or gay marriage? And the answer, as I said, is that social conservative today now has a very different meaning to a lot of people than in the 1990s. It has to do with the emerging fights about gender and about race than it does have anything to do written in the Bible. Church membership in the U.S. is actually at an all-time low. More importantly, the trend is clear. Even those who grew up religious are not attending religious institutions anymore. Only 20% of Americans attend a religious service weekly. The vast majority of Americans say they only attend seldom or never, with a numbering at a full 1/3 of the entire public who don't attend at all. U.S. Christian identification is an all-time low. U.S. non-religious identification is only a full 20%. We are still a more secular country right now than ever before, and it happened incredibly rapidly. My biggest problem with our current culture war is how captured that I find most organizations and institutions who are
Okay, so you guys should listen to the rest of his monologue. It's on on his YouTube. Really good. So much to unpack there. Let's kind of start from the beginning. Freeman, you want to go first?
Yeah, I really like the term barstool conservatives. Like, I've actually been thinking about this kind of phenomenon a lot. Like, these are just the people that call themselves right wing, but are really actually kind of liberal on issues that I'm very conservative on. And I don't know, it's just so fascinating. I think it goes back to the fact that, I mean, are we church going conservatives? Like, is that the foundation of conservatism, or is it this culture war thing that's going on? It's interesting that, social conservatism is highest in about a decade, yet church attendance is at an all-time low. That pretty much clarifies that, like, this term, social conservative, is meaningless. Or at least it's changing dramatically.
It's changing. I think that's the biggest thing. It's changing. Continue.
Yeah, and I'm really not a fan of that. Like, I think it's interesting also that, like, the 30 to 60-year-old, are the people that are, like, making this transition. I've heard the joke, if you aren't liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart, and if you're not conservative when you're old, you don't have a brain. I just feel like that's those people that are, like, going through that transition, from, like, liberal to
Literally.
conservative. But I think like I think it's really disappointing that this is what's happening with the social conservative movement. Um, I don't know. I guess it's just becoming like trendy to say you're socially conservative. I think it's become like you're, you're in opposition. You are, what's the
Contrarian.
word for? Yeah, exactly. You're a
Mm-hmm.
contrarian. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
like cool. You're like anti like the norm, which is like cool and trendy. And I don't know. It just makes me think a lot about this like flashy conservatism that makes me sad. I think we're just fighting fire with fire, like our new social conservative movement. Like we're being inflammatory and unkind to, minorities, to the LGBTQ plus community. Like it's just fighting fire with fire. And I don't think that we're actually going to do any good if we're just like anti woke and that's our only platform.
That's really good. I want to comment on what you just said first, and then I'll say what I have to say about the video.
Hmm.
I really like what you said. If our platform is just that we're anti woke, then it's not a real platform. And I think this kind of goes to something that I've talked about on my Instagram stories on my personal page, Life is Malpow. And
Hmm.
if our like metric of our standard is we are opposite of anything woke,
Yeah.
then there's going to be things that just aren't logical that we're going to be going up against.
Hmm.
I think the perfect example is the whole Chick-fil-A DIE thing. Like,
Hmm.
diversity isn't like someone saying that like diversity, ooh, scary.
Hmm.
Like that's not necessarily a
Yeah.
bad thing. I think it's
Yeah.
good to have conversations about, interacting with people because you know what, you guys, like maybe you don't see the need for it, but there are people in pockets of the United States who genuinely have never been around other races, who have never been around people of other who are just who've never been around those
Hmm.
people. And we have, I'm assuming most of us have a good heart. So if we say something to somebody that's offensive, it probably wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
And that person has the ability to say, you know what so and so said wasn't, they weren't trying to offend me, so I'm not going to be offended. We have the
Hmm.
ability to do that to people. They have the ability to do that. But you also don't want to make people uncomfortable because you're saying and doing so many things. So I think it's good
Hmm.
to have conversations. You don't have to make people uncomfortable even in these conversations. Like, and you don't have to make it a big deal. But, once you, or even a lot of people are super against Juneteenth. I think that's another great example.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of strange conservative hot takes from people who, when Trump mentioned it, were all rah rah, look at us, we help the minorities. And now that, Joe
Hmm.
Biden did. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, like, if your whole stance is you're anti woke, you're going to be a little goofy. I don't know how else, I don't know another word to describe it. That's a little goofy. Perfect.
Hmm.
You honestly, like, forget the DIE Chick-fil-A thing. Think about the Juneteenth thing. 3 years ago you were praising it because it was on Trump's plan. Trump was going to do it. Now,
Hmm.
Biden did it. And now it's like this evil, awful thing. You look goofy. So I
Yeah,
think
you
that's
look
just
inconsistent.
inconsistent. I think that's why it's really important that your values are grounded in something like concrete, which as Christians, as conservatives, it would be the Bible. That's where we get our values from. So if your just whole thing is just we're unwoke, then this is what we get. So back to the video at hand. So love the term Barstool conservative as well. I've heard that for years. It's a
Hmm.
great way to describe fraternity conservatives,
Hmm.
part
Hmm.
of, different groups. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't really want to say any groups right now, but it's a fraternity, they're in it. Those are the type of conservatism that it is, and that's just the fact of the matter. And I think that is a very interesting how he was Sagar was saying like everything has shifted further right, socially conservative, which is which is crazy to me because like when I think about it, I'm like that just doesn't make sense. Like it just doesn't seem like people have shifted so socially conservative, but what it means to be socially conservative has changed. And
Yes.
if everybody has shifted, and part of it later in the video he says something like, "Have you ever had a conversation with someone and you're like," or he said something like, "Oh, are you like not against drag in general, but then you have a conversation with someone who you think you guys are agreeing, and then all of a sudden they're insisting that children have to be at these shows
Hmm.
and you're uncomfortable." And I think that just kind of goes to the idea of like part of the reason why it seems like a lot more people are shifting to the right is because the people who are on the left who have stayed on the left are going so far left. I think that,
Yes.
I mean, even, and he talks about how like, I think it's a lot of Americans are okay with abortion, but once you break it down, and that has to go with all of these issues. I think like once you break down some of these issues, it's probably not as black and white as simple as this Gallup poll has playing it. But anyway, so my whole point about the abortion thing is like, there are a lot of people who are pro-abortion, but when you break it down and you say, okay, well, what about at this time? I mean, that number dwindles. And I mean, even when I've done like surveys and interviews and stuff like that with people about it, and I've mentioned, okay, so how do you feel about this number? And they're like, that nobody actually agrees with that. And it's like, well, no, there are a couple people. So then those people who are like, wow, that's so outrageous, then now they're considering themselves even more, they're thinking they're moving further right because of how far left so many people have gone. And I mean, and the abortion issue as well, the transgender issue is a great example. There's people who think that being trans is fine as long as you're an adult, but don't let the children do it. And there's some people who are like, that 1-year-old, if they picked up a Barbie and he's a guy, that's a woman. We got to support that one. So it's just people have gone so far to the left that it's pushed all these other people further right. And I think it's quite a fascinating phenomenon. And it just makes you kind of wonder, what do we do to get to true social conservatism? Because a lot of these issues that people are saying they're conservative on, they're really not. And I would like us to get to true social conservatism, but how do we do that when because you made a very good point, we're not at the true social conservatism because we don't have that religious aspect in it. And you can't sit here, back to abortion, you can't sit here and say that abortion is okay if you know that abortion is murder. I'm sorry, if you know that murder is wrong as outlined in the Bible, if you know that every human has dignity as outlined in the Bible, you know that every human has worth as outlined in the Bible, you can't sit here and support abortion. So, yeah,
and like when I think of a social conservative, I think of someone who's like, embracing modesty, someone who's open to life, someone who is waiting for that person, who's pure. Like, I don't want to say like who's pure, but like who's trying to embrace purity, trying to achieve purity. Yeah. And like, that is so not this person. Like, the person we're talking about is like definitely going to parties, definitely watching porn, definitely not waiting until marriage, like definitely on birth control. Like, not that that makes you a bad person, but that's not really,
that's not social, like,
that's not the typical social conservative.
Yeah, that's just not what it is.
They're not going to church. They're hungover on Sunday mornings, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And I think it's so funny because, like, I wouldn't agree with this person any more than I would agree with the modern liberal. Like, they're both, like, so wrong on things. And they have good things, but they're just missing it in some ways.
And I think that's just kind of the direction that it has gone into, because our culture has changed, because our values has changed, because of the biblical aspect of it, because of being part of knowing maybe you shouldn't be drunk and be on birth control all the time and like doing all these things. It all goes back to like your biblical convictions. So once all that changed, and once the left started getting further, social conservatism just changed it up a little bit. So
it's
you
secular.
Guys, yeah,
secular.
It's secular. It's secular social conservatism. So
which
you guys,
is like such an oxymoron.
Yeah. Well, I mean, conservative. I mean, we have this in a Facebook group, and we have this conversation every couple of weeks. Well, what really is conservative? What are you conserving? And it really, like, the truth of the matter is the root of conservative means conserving. So what are you conserving? Traditional values. You're conserving biblical values. And I think that people Like, that's really what a conservative is. And there's tons of people who just don't believe that. And once again, no shade to those who don't believe that. And I will never be the gatekeeper, because, you know, there's some people, well, if you don't fit X, Y, and Z, you're definitely not a conservative. So I don't want to gatekeep, but I want to give, like the reality is you're conserving something. So if you're not conserving anything, whether it be marriage, whether it be your body, whether it be just traditional biblical values, then resources, then, I mean, come on, guys, like, what? Are you a conservative? But you can be a Republican. I think there's not a real definition of a Republican. Just not someone who considers themselves... I would say
small government. Smaller government.
Small government. If you think there should be small government, then I think anything else you believe doesn't matter, because you can still be a Republican. But, like, conservative...
Oh,
well, because a Republican...
What you're saying.
Well,
you're saying Republican's how you vote, social is how you act.
Sure. What I'm really saying is, like, conservatism is an ideology. Republican is just a party. Anybody can be a part of a party. You should have conservative values. Conservative values fit into the Republican Party because that's what it's been established. But anybody can be a Republican. I mean, there's so many people who are... I don't want to call anybody out, but I'm thinking of a particular person who does all X, Y, and Z, and you talk to them and you're like, you are not conservative, but you vote Republican, so, like, who am I to tell you can be a Republican? But, you know, the definition of conservative, like, has a definition. Republican, I think, is just, like, whatever. You can vote however, be whoever you want Republican, but, like, it doesn't make sense to say that you're a conservative if you don't have conservative values.
True that.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, we got to move on to the next story. Okay, so our next story is something I had to add. I saw it in the news, and I was like, we must discuss this. And this goes to we talk a lot about, at least I talk a lot about, like, beauty, body image, and everything, and I think this is just, like, a really good cautionary tale. So this next story is brought to you by the Daily Mail. Identity of second Texas mom killed by fungal meningitis after liposuction and BBL in Mexico is revealed. Best friend shares heartbreaking loss.
What's BBL?
Brazilian butt lift. In my head, I figured everybody knew what a BBL was.
No, not everybody knows that. I just wanted to clarify for the listeners.
Oh, okay. No, that's right. That's true, because there could be somebody who does not know what a BBL is. A BBL is a Brazilian butt lift. It is to make your booty bigger. That's the purpose of it. Why? For the male gaze. But anyway, the mother of Shane Medrano, 31, of Houston, died from fungal meningitis at a hospital on May 16th, 2023. And she is one of 4 Texas women who have died from the infection after they went under the knife in the northern border city of Matamoros. I'm sorry, y'all. Her best friend since the 7th grade, oh, that's so sad, Laura Garza, told Daily Mail that Miss Medrano was complaining about headaches in March after the operation and then died 2 months later following close to 5 or 6 strokes. Oh, that's such an awful way to die. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, believes around 180 Americans who traveled to clinics in Matamoros this year could be at risk. And the agency is now urging people to go to the nearest emergency room as soon as possible to be evaluated if they do not have symptoms.
Oh my gosh.
180. So if you're listening, you have gone to get a BBL or liposuction, they're telling you to go to the emergency room to be evaluated, even if you don't have symptoms.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay.
Just kidding.
As of June 14th, the CDC reports 6 confirmed cases of fungal meningitis detected from samples. There have been 4 deaths and 2 who are confirmed cases and 2 which are probable. The CDC has warned that anyone given epidural anesthesia, injection into the spine to numb part of the body during surgery is at risk and should go to the nearest emergency room to be tested, even if they do not have symptoms. The epidural is used in procedures such as liposuction, breast augmentation, and Brazilian butt lifts, which can be more than $16,000 cheaper than in the U.S. The CDC is currently investigating 172 people who may have been infected.
Oh, that's horrible.
It's awful. I think it's so sad. All right, I'm about to get on my soapbox. Here I go.
Go ahead.
I think it's just really sad that we have come to this point that we are doing such dangerous things just to look what we deem to be beautiful in this moment.
Yes.
Because that's what it all is. This is all, you don't get a BBL, you don't get breast augmentation, you don't, and I'm saying this as someone who would like to, who possibly one day would want to get something done on her stomach, but you're not doing it for necessarily, like, these aren't health things. Like, liposuction isn't health, if you got the sleeve in your stomach, that's health. But liposuction is not health. A BBL certainly is not health. And breast augmentation is not for health. You can get a breast reduction, that's for health. Getting breast implants is not for health. We're doing all of these things, and I'm going to say it for the male gaze. I'm sorry. There is, you cannot convince me that women are risking their lives to get a butt implant so they can look good for themselves. It is all for the male gaze. It is all because they want to be valued by men, which is a normal female reaction. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be picked. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be married. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be thought of as beautiful. Where it ventures into not good territory is when you are going out, risking your life to do these type of things. And, there's a lot of people who have different beliefs. Like, it's a podcast I listen to, these girls, whenever anyone talks about, like, getting a nose job or getting breast implants or all this other stuff, they always go, you should do whatever you can to make yourself feel beautiful. And there's that belief that, sure, if you truly think you're a hideous beast because your butt is flat, then there's that belief that you should go do it. I am not on that side. I am on the side of, okay, your butt is flat. That's how God made you. Yeah, it sucks. Maybe you're not getting the type of boys you want, but, like, that's life. And
wear a skirt, wear a dress.
Do exercises, and just I think people should just sometimes just accept. And once again, like, you guys know, I have body image issues up the wazoo. So I'm also just talking to myself, reminding myself. Sometimes you just gotta just accept, like, this is the body God gave you. And that's why I'm such a big fan of being body neutral. You don't have to worry about being body positive. I think I look awful today, but I'm gonna look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful. Ha ha ha. Like, I am. I don't, like, that just doesn't work for everybody. That didn't work for me. So, like, just be body neutral. Like, this is the body God gave me. It is what it is. I'm gonna do my best to take care of it. I like to wear bright clothes. I'm gonna wear bright clothes. I like to wear pigtails. I'm gonna wear pigtails. Not me personally, but, like, if I'm pretending to be somebody else. I like to color my hair. Let me color my hair. Like, that's just kind of like what you, like, if you're given things that you think are not acceptable in this moment, because that's the biggest thing. It's in this moment. When my mom was growing up, having a big butt was not a cool thing. To this day, like, I've mentioned stuff about, like, how big butts are in. My mom, like, does not really believe me.
So
like,
funny.
because, like, growing up, when she was a kid, like, that was like, oh my God. I mean, even think about some TV shows, like, when someone says someone has a big butt, it's like, oh, you have a big butt? Lips are another perfect example. I've mentioned this before. I remember someone mentioning how my lips were big in such a negative tone, and now, not to brag, this is just, like, reality, people pay to have their lips as big as mine. But, a couple years ago, it was, like, such a negative thing. So people are spending this money to do these things for just the temporary, like, what's attractive temporarily. When I think you should kind of just work on what you have. And I'm not saying that, like, if you get lip injections or Botox, I'm not saying those things are necessarily bad. I just don't think that they're good. I don't want to say they're bad. Like, they're not. I don't want to flat out say, like, they're bad or you're a bad person. I don't think that at all. But I definitely don't think they're good. Think about all these women now who are talking about how they're taking out their breast implants. I mean, what are people going to be saying about lips soon? All these celebrities are taking out breast implants, all these stories of women whose, like, breast implants have leaked into their bloodstream or whatever. Think about all that. They're going to be saying things like that probably about lip fillers too. And once again, like, if you really don't like something about yourself, I don't know, other than just, like, accepting it and, like, moving forward and stop kind of, I guess, focusing on. I don't know what else to say.
Mm-hmm.
But just know you're not alone. Know that, like, I understand that, like, there's parts of me that I absolutely loathe about myself. Like, I just, like, thinking about it just, like, makes my skin crawl. I'm like, oh, God, why would you do this to me? I feel that. So, like, you're not alone in that. But I just really just don't think that spending thousands of dollars for something temporary, because that's the other thing, too. Like, I don't think necessarily fat will ever be in, but you know what? For all I know, in 20 years, it could be in. And because things just change, like
Mm-hmm.
they change. And it hurts my heart, and it upsets me when women are constantly just doing things because it's doing this stuff because it's truly not something that it's not for health reasons. You can't convince me that it's just for you. It
Mm-hmm.
it's for male approval, and I know that's probably controversial for me to say. I can see people being mad and like leaving a review because of that, but like that's what it's for. And
Well,
I'm
it
sorry.
doesn't it doesn't matter who it's for, really. It matters that you're altering something for something earthly when you've been given a gift. You've been given a gift of a body. You've been given a gift of an able body. You've been given a soul. You've been given abundant gifts, and we're still unhappy. We're still unsatisfied. So I don't think it necessarily even matter. I mean, it's a good question, it's a good conversation, but ultimately, changing something that God has given you for any earthly reason, doesn't matter if it's your earthly reason or his earthly reason, that's that's a problem, and that's sad because
Yeah.
God doesn't see any of that. He sees your soul. He could care so much less about, your hair or like your skin. It's just sad. It's an insecurity, and it just reminds me of like our need for approval, our need to be
Mhm.
accepted, our need to fit in. And
Mhm.
God just gives us so much peace though. And it's so much easier said than done. There are plenty of things, especially like emotionally and spiritually. Not so much physically, but I do struggle with insecurities like emotionally and spiritually and intellectually and financially. Like I struggle with all kinds of insecurities, and so God just offers a lot of peace, but I don't want to sound like I've got it figured out by any means either by offering that advice. So,
Yeah, and kind of to pick it back off of that, like we mentioned it before in the podcast, and I've said it before, like really what matters is how God views us. And
hmm
it's hard, and I'll use because people reach out, and so I know I'm not talking to avoid. I'm also talking about myself. Like, it's hard to find that balance because the reality is to be married, someone has to find you attractive. So if you're sitting out here wanting to be married and you don't feel as if you're attractive, then there's that balance. But then there's the other aspect of like, what matters most is what God says. And that is really truly what we should be focusing on. Should you take care of yourself? Absolutely. I'm not saying, wear
hmm
potato sack clothes, don't comb your hair.
hmm
I'm not saying
hmm
that at all. Um, but what I'm saying is like, even in the midst of like, just with that like balance, that going back and forth, because I mean, I struggle with this almost daily. I mentioned it on my Instagram, not to keep bringing back my Instagram, but you all should be following me. Um, I like I struggle with this like daily, this balance between like like God um cares about my heart. That is the most important thing. God cares about
Yeah.
my character. That is the only thing that's important. How everybody else perceives me does not. It does not matter. Does that still mean you dress like a slob? Obviously not. Does that mean I mean, that's one thing you can't say about me. Does it mean, you don't comb your hair? No. It just means that like you're focusing more on like what's on the inside and kind of just trying not to think about and just forget about how you're being perceived. And I think like if we focus more on that, we can also do that to others. Because I think that's the other problem too, is like part of the reason why people are so focused on like um how they look is because they're doing that to other people. And I think when you're doing that to other people, you're going to do it to yourself as well. So once we like kind of get that idea of like, oh, I have to da 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 da, you're gonna realize, like, you're gonna open up the world. You're gonna see so many people who you kind of didn't think were beautiful, or people who that never crossed your mind. You're gonna see them in a completely different light. And then you're going to be able to have much more meaningful relationships. You're going to be able to have more meaningful conversation. You're going to be able to take in advice from people who you probably wouldn't not have ever taken advice from. It's just like, it's so eye-opening once we like shift our focus. And I think that's kind of what the big conversation, the big thing I want to take away from this particular conversation is like shifting our focus from, you know, making sure how we're perceived by everybody else to how is God, what does God care about? God truly only cares about what's on the inside. He truly does. But I want to add, don't hear me say, don't care about the outside. Don't hear me say that. I'm just saying, like, what is more important is what's on the inside. And if we truly focus on that, and we focus on that for ourselves, and we focus on that with others, it'll drastically change a lot of things in your life.
For sure.
So yeah, so that's my 2 cents on that. So our last story is by Cosmopolitan, not the ice cream. Kesha opens up about the horrifying moment she almost died after egg freezing complications. The singer spent 9 days in the hospital following the ordeal. Kesha has reflected on the horrifying moment she almost died earlier this year after undergoing egg freezing, a process through which eggs are extracted from ovaries as a means to preserve fertility. Quote, "I almost died in January," she said during an interview with Self, recalling how last year she opted to freeze her eggs, but later became unwell and too weak to walk. With her health in decline, Kesha went to the hospital where doctors discovered she had developed an uncommon yet serious complication from the fertility procedure. As any medical procedure, there are health risks associated with egg freezing, although these are highly unlikely. In Kesha's case, her complications were in part attributed to her weakened immune system, a result of her recent common variable autoimmune deficiency diagnosis. Kesha went on to spend 9 days in the hospital, but said that only now does she finally feel recovered. It took a couple months, she told Self. It was horrifying. Scary.
Yeah. So she had an immune system deficiency. And then when she got the eggs frozen, did it cause like an infection or something?
So, so you have to do all these different things to take out the eggs. So you have to like do shots. You have to like, to like put your body, you have to kind of like get the eggs out, put your body through a bunch of stuff. And it seems like when she did that, it already had an immune system issue, and all of that stuff kind of like triggered it. That's from my understanding from reading it.
I don't know how people like do this. I literally get freaked out like to take a vitamin. I'm like, are you sure this is safe? Like, I do not like the idea of like any medicine in me. I don't. I hate it.
Yeah.
So I just can't. It's just like really wild that people go through these
Well,
things. And then
oh, go ahead.
no, go
Well,
ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's just part of our natural desire to be a mother. I think that's what it all goes down to. Like, we naturally all desire to be a mom. Some people put it off purposely. Some people put it off, or some people put it off purposely. Some people, it happens later, not necessarily on purpose, but that's just how life takes them. And I think that's what it is. I think people kind of just, they think the reward outweighs the risk.
Well, and I think there's a possibility that like everyone wants to be mother of some kind. I don't think it's always physical. I don't know. I don't know if it's always physical. I mean, there are obviously physical reasons somebody may not want to, but like I think we all want to be, spiritual mothers in some way. Like I want to be able to like love someone else in like a way that a mother would love someone else, like
Yeah.
I want to be able to guide people. That's my maternal instinct. So our maternal instinct can manifest in so many different ways. I just wanted to like caveat, at least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's always physical, but like we do have that desire, that maternal, beautiful desire to love and to nurture. And I hate that this happened to her. I mean,
Yeah.
and she's just now speaking about it. I wonder why she felt like she couldn't. I mean, was she just too weak for the last 6 months to like open up about this? I mean, I think it's something that, if you're an influential person, I think you should be talking about this. You should use your platform to share risks and harms to other
Yeah.
humans. So,
Well, I think part of it is it's controversial to say something negative about something like this because the reality is
true.
it's becoming very popular. And it's something that so many people, I mean, like I've mentioned before, I thought about it at one point. Like, it's just something
Hmm.
that, like, so it's just something that girls kind of think, um, is an option. So it's kind
Hmm.
of controversial. Kind of like when Chloe mentioned how she felt
Hmm.
she didn't feel
Oh
the connection
gosh.
with her child. Like,
Oh my
it's kind of
gosh.
controversial because it's popular. Like, it just, and it doesn't help the financial bottom line if you're talking negatively about these things. So I'm
Or it doesn't
sure,
support like women's empowerment,
yeah,
like all those
exactly.
social things.
Exactly. It doesn't support women. So like you're telling people that it was such a hard time for you when you got your eggs removed
What's
or
your angle?
yeah, exactly, exactly. You don't think women can do these things by themselves? You don't think women can raise
You think women are
children?
too weak?
Yes, exactly.
Or our immune system's too weak like
Yeah,
yours?
exactly. No, seriously, that's probably the concern about speaking up. But I'm glad that
Yeah,
she spoke up, and I'm glad that
me
more
too.
people are talking about it. I mean, I saw this story also on Twitter because people are talking about like the egg retrieval, though it seems like realistically it does kind of like if you're living in a world where you first of all you have the money, back to the wealthy comment,
Mm-hmm.
you have the money,
Mm-hmm.
you have the time, because there's some people who are holding off getting married and having kids, not necessarily because they are mean, evil, and selfish, but
For sure.
because some of them, want to be able to provide. Some of them have other reasons. If a woman is going through chemo
Mm-hmm.
right now, it's probably not best that she
Mm-hmm.
has a baby at this moment. If you already have the baby, then you already have the baby. But like, sometimes you just
Mm-hmm.
want to wait. Sometimes you find it. So there's a bajillion reasons why. So, this easily accessible way to just preserve it because we've been told our whole lives once you hit 30, girl,
I've been told that. I've been
those
told you might want to
eggs,
think about it. You might want to think about it. And
well,
even if you don't reach like 30 or 40, like I could get cancer. I
right,
could get something. Like I've always been told. Well, and I don't even remember by who. Like nobody really in my close realm. But I just feel like the media and like
yeah,
I just feel this narrative that like, it's something to think about. God forbid something happened to you. Like, wouldn't you want Andy to still be able to have your children? I'm just like, whoa. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's intense. Well, what I meant is that we're told that as soon as we turn 30, half of our eggs are gone. But yeah, I
yes,
mean, preserving
that
too,
too.
like wanting your husband to be able to have a child. And how interesting is that? Like, you've passed away, but you have your spouse's egg. Your spouse has your egg to make a kid, but like you're not there. Like that is kind of
Like
like
the like
a
surrogate, I don't know.
yeah. Someone has
Anyways,
to be a
it's like
surrogate. Yeah,
it's just not
that's
it
weird.
doesn't click. It's not
No,
clicking.
no, and I mean the further we get from God's perfect design, um,
The weirder it gets.
yeah. I mean, did you hear about that girl who she was doing one of those like get ready with me. She was doing her makeup and telling her story. She is an IVF baby and her sister's an IVF baby, but they call each other twins even though the mother was implanted. I think she's 23 and her sister's 21. But they call each other twins because they were created in the same batch together, right?
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not finished the story. So she
Mm-hmm.
was saying how I think she said like five other embryos that are technically her part of her twinness. There are five other embryos that are still waiting that her parents didn't use and they're probably not going to use. She said that she has thought one day maybe she will use them. So she would technically give
Hmm.
birth because they're embryos. They're not just eggs. They're embryos. So
Yeah.
it's a frozen human, a human that is literally
Yeah.
frozen in time.
Yeah.
So technically, she would be giving birth to her sibling. And it's just like the further we get from God's design, the stranger it is.
Yeah. I mean, how do you explain that to your kid? I mean, look, I think embryo adoption is it's a good thing.
Yeah, at this
However,
point, yeah. If it's already
yeah,
created.
that's a little too close for comfort.
Yeah. It's a little weird. And once again, the further we get from God's perfect design, because what God created was perfect. It was perfect. It was,
Mm-hmm.
God saw it and it was good. And the further
Yes.
we get from it, the stranger things are, the more complications there are, and
Mm-hmm.
not saying that everything's gonna be, because we live in a fallen world, we're not perfect, but how God did it, designed for us to be, was
It's kind
perfect.
of
And
perfect.
then Eve, well, really Adam, because God didn't do anything until Adam ate it, because Adam wasn't taking care of his wife. But anyway, neither here nor there. So that's today's episode. We will just do a separate episode about Dobbs. Let's just talk
Yes.
about it for like 2 seconds. Super excited. If you're listening, this is a 1 year anniversary of the fall of Roe. We're really happy about it. This is a great thing. Having Ideally, we would like for abortion to be completely abolished. That is the stance of the podcast. That's the stance of everybody who is ever probably going to work on the board of Those Are the Girls in any capacity. Is we would like abortion to be completely abolished. This is a great step in the direction, but as many of you know, it has not been completely abolished in most states. So we're not done. We can still celebrate and be happy about what has happened, but we're not done. We're not done with this. We still have so much to do in North Carolina. There's still a couple rules. By the time you guys, our new law won't be into effect until July 1st. So the next episode, by the time you hear it, it'll be in effect. There's no South Carolina. I think they got their heartbeat bill, I believe. So there's just a lot of things. We still have so much more work to do, but we're still excited and happy. Freeman, do you have anything
Yeah.
you want to add to that?
No, I saw a post, and I hope it's reliable, but according to Guttmacher, We Count, and the New York Times, over 60,000 babies have been saved. Half of states have abortion bans, and less women are dying from abortions, and also about 60 clinics have closed.
Fantastic. Praise God. And let's keep doing it, ladies. Part of how we're going to fix this, because no matter what, people are still going to have abortions, no matter what. Part of how we're going to fix this is from changing the culture. We will change the laws as well.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, because
Yeah.
I know people are like, well, you can't change culture. We can do both. We can and we will. We can
Yes,
and we
ma'am.
will. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, comment. The question for the week will be, I'll think of something, but our yes or no would be, if you were guaranteed, if you could get on the submarine for free and you were guaranteed a way to come back, would you still do it?
You mean come back alive?
Come back alive. Yeah, come back alive. Would you still
Like
do
your
it?
body could come back.
Yeah, I mean, all of you comes back. Would you still do it? Let me know, yes or no. That's going to be the poll. I'll also put that
I
on
love
the
that.
YouTube. And then I'll think of a deeper question for like you can type in your answers.
I like it.
So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you share this episode. I think it's a fabulous episode just to share. We talked about a myriad of things. We have lots of opinions. So yeah, that's it. Bye.
Bye-bye.